Okay. Hi, welcome to Module 5. This is the therapeutic process. Um, so this week we're taking a break from the IPA. That's one of the big concepts that we're talking about. We're going through the therapeutic process. So eliciting sounds, chapter 1. The big thing that this goes over is like your behind the scenes look. So if you've seen the movie Inside Out, this is like going inside of a therapist's brain. This is all of the things that we do and why we do them. So it's a lot of fun overall to dive into all of those different areas. When we're talking about the listening sounds textbook, it really introduces methods of therapy, such as imitation, use of context. We go into phonetic placement, the kinesthetic method, and sound approximation. So it dives into all of those areas and teaches you a little bit of why behind your therapy. Remembering that when this textbook was written, it was written so a brand new therapist can pick it up, read it, and do articulation therapy. So this is going to be a big learning opportunity overall. When we dive into module 5, make sure you're reviewing all of the information about the behavioral orientation, right? Remembering that that is Skinner and the theories behind it. Cognitive, humanistic, social orientation. Remember the people that are associated with it, and then what those go over all together. The learning styles, make sure that you're understanding global versus analytic learning. And then the modalities of learning. This is something that's going to continue to be important as like educators and people who are supplying therapy, talking about visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic learning overall. When you're writing goals, as like a speech language pathologist, you do talk about what kind of cueing are you doing or prompting are you doing for the student, right? So these things, it's what kind of clues are you giving them? How are you helping them learn overall? So they're important to understand. I will be sending out, or I am sending out the answers to the module 4, the Buzz Lightyear conversation. Um, there were at least 11 errors. I saw everyone really did a great job of identifying them. I'm hoping giving that example beforehand was a little bit helpful just for understanding the structure. Um, the thing that I really wanted to talk about this week is why the information that we are learning this week is important, right? Because we've been focused so much on the IPA. Everything has been about how do you produce sounds? Where do they occur in words? How do you hear them? How do you identify that a sound is incorrect, right? So now I want you to think about a therapy session that I had today. I had a therapy, I changed the child's name, but I had an articulation therapy session today, right? John is in first grade. Now, John really has a hard time transitioning from the therapy room back to class. He loves speech. He's very motivated to come with me. He's excited to work on his sounds. We've talked a lot about the difference in his sounds, but he hates going back to class. There's a fit, there's complaining, there is whining. Nobody wants to deal with it, right? So, what have we done? Okay. So, what we do is when I pick him up, I have a star. He earns 4 stars. The 5th time we get to play a game in speech. Now, the game always includes his sound. We make sure that that's a big portion of it, but he thinks it's just a game. So when I go and pick him up, I take his star, I put it over on his desk, he stands up, and we walk over to the speech room together. Okay, so this is a way that I rewarded him or set up a reward system. And we know if we walk all the way back without complaining, that star goes on your chart, we're good. Next week, you get another one. Awesome. Now, John has done this once before, so he understands the whole process. We've talked about it a lot. So great. Like we have set up a reward system, right? So this is going towards that behavioral piece. When we get into the speech room, we start out with 2 priming activities. The first one's called auditory bombardment. Now we'll learn more about these, but basically I sit there and I say words with his target word in them. So his target sound was L. So I say 20 words with L in them. He just has to listen, right? Perfect. He can do that. That's an easy task for him. So we're building some confidence. After I say to him, okay, I'm going to say words with L in them and then a word that won't be the same with the same sound. Okay, so it'll be like ball, but bon, right? He has to identify which word had the L in it by touching. Does that word have L in it? Yep. Okay, and he's listening to the sounds. Again, very easy for him to do. This is some minimal pairs and maximal pairs as well. Okay, so that's next. So it builds up his confidence. It's something that he's done before. It's something he understands, and our skills are well beyond this already. This is building an emotionally supportive climate for him. So overall, we're now moving into the humanistic orientation, right? We've checked that box within our therapy. After that, we work on L in isolation. Now, this is a skill he has. He understands where his tongue goes. He describes it with me. We have a little mouth that we move the tongue up. He's ready, right? So we make the O sound in isolation. Let's make it 5 times. Make it awesome. Great job. A lot of positive feedback. I can hear that your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth. I know your tongue is in the right place. I see your smile instead of rounding your mouth. Great job, John. Okay, then we make the sound in words. Again, this is a little bit harder for John, but we have built up all of this to this point, right? He has a lot of confidence. So we do our L in words. Today he was 15 out of 20 words. I was pretty happy with that. So was he. He was pretty excited. At the end, we had 3 challenge sentences. Now, these challenge sentences usually are the spelling words embedded, they're the science vocabulary embedded, whatever I can grab from walking around the classroom that I can understand would be a word, they're in our challenge sentences. So we try and say those. We find where the L is in the challenge sentence, right? Then we really focus on it. We'll say that word, and then he'll say it at the sentence level. I'll tell you today, he got 2 out of his 3 challenge sentences with his good L. Do you know how excited that kid was? He was over the moon, right? Because we created that super supportive environment. We were able to take the time to find something that it relates to his school day, and we built his confidence. Now, John also understands there's a reward at the end, right? So we walked back to class together. We talked all about his favorite part of the night before, what he ate for breakfast. He was so excited. We walked back in, he sat down, took his star, put it on his chart. Then I left, right? So overall, these things all apply, right? These are all things that we're working into therapy in order to be good therapists. You'll see therapy sessions where there's a kid sitting absolutely perfect and they sit there and say every word you would like. That happens every once in a while. Most of the time, you have to find things that are rewarding. And people who are parents, you definitely know this, right? But you have to find things that make it work for the child. Is this a child who needs their confidence built? I have another girl who's in 3rd grade. If we do confidence building things at the beginning, she's like, this is too easy. And she is done with me immediately. So I know she's an immediate challenge kid. So our therapy sessions run differently. Understanding your individual clients' needs and the way they learn, the way they respond is so important because without that, you will not have meaningful therapy. Remembering to make sure that it can apply to their lives as well. So for John, when we go and play a game, we're going to make sure that game has L sound embedded within it, right? We're going to really think about those words beforehand, maybe practice them, and then start playing, right? So overall, I wanted to share a story as to why the information that you're learning this week is important, why it's so good to have in your pocket. I will say this will come up in this week's quiz is all about this. The midterm will have information about this, and the final will have information about this. It is that big of a concept that seems small when you've just worked really hard on the IPA for a few weeks, right? We've all been all encompassed in the IPA. This is still very important information, and it's going to drive your therapy. Not only articulation therapy, but language therapy, fluency therapy. All therapy that you do will come back to these concepts. So please let me know if you have questions about them. I am available for that. Thank you.